1966. The deserts of Spain became the stage for one of the greatest westerns ever made. A film so legendary, its shadow still looms over cinema today. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly wasn't just a movie, it was a revolution. Clint Eastwood's steely gaze. Lee Van Cleef's terrifying menace. Eli Wallach's wild, unpredictable chaos. Three men, one treasure, and a legacy drenched in blood, gold, and secrets. But what happened to the men behind the myth? The ones who brought these iconic characters to life, only to fade into the darkness themselves? Some died too soon. Others lived long enough to see their legend grow. And behind the scenes? Scandals, feuds, near-death stunts. This is the untold story of the actors who never made it out alive. Why was Lee Van Cleef's career nearly destroyed after this film? How did Eli Wallach cheat death? Not on screen, but on set. And what dark truth did Captain Clinton's actor take to his grave? The answers will shock you. This is no fairy tale. This is the Wild West. And in the Wild West, not everyone gets a happy ending. Subscribe now, like, and prepare to uncover the buried truth of cinema's most ruthless legends. Because this story is loaded with more twists than Tuco's revolver. If Eli Wallach was the fire of the good, the bad, and the ugly, then Lee Van Cleef was the ice. Cold, calculating, deadly. Angel Eyes wasn't just a villain. He was the devil in a duster coat. And the man behind him? Even more fascinating and far more tragic. Before he became cinema's ultimate gunslinger, Lee Van Cleef was a real-life hero. A U.S. Navy sailor in World War II. A man who survived a near-fatal accident that left his face carved with scars. Scars that would later make him the perfect Hollywood villain. Hollywood typecast him fast. The moment directors saw those piercing eyes and that razor-sharp jaw, they knew. This man was born to play the bad guy. But here's the twist. Van Cleef hated it. He wanted to be a leading man. And when Sergio Leone came calling in 1965, he saw his chance. Angel Eyes was Van Cleef's masterpiece. The way he chewed his lines. That slow, sadistic smile. The man didn't just act evil. He breathed it. But off camera, rumors swirled. Some say he clashed with Leone over the role. Others whisper he drank to numb the pain of being forever trapped as the villain. After GBU, the roles got darker. The paychecks got smaller. Van Cleef became a prisoner of his own image, grinding out B-movies just to survive. By the 1980s, the man who once shared the screen with Clint Eastwood was reduced to straight-to-VHS trash, and the whispers grew louder. December 16th, 1989. Lee Van Cleef died alone in his California home at just 64. The official cause? A heart attack. But those who knew him say it was more than that. It was a broken heart, a career spent playing monsters, until he couldn't remember who he really was. In the end, Van Cleef followed his own advice. He never talked about the pain. He just disappeared. But his shadow? That lasts forever. Meet the man who stole every scene he was in, and nearly stole Clint Eastwood's spotlight. Eli Wallach, the chaotic, unpredictable force behind Tuco Benedicto Pacifico Juan Maria Ramirez. Or, as you know him, the Ugly. But behind that wild-eyed grin, a story even crazier than the character he played. Wallach wasn't even supposed to be in this film. The role was written for another actor, until Leone saw Wallach's explosive energy in The Magnificent Seven and demanded him. And that decision, it almost got Wallach killed. That iconic bridge explosion, no special effects, real dynamite. And Wallach, strapped to a wooden plank, dangling over the river as the charges blew. One misstep, and cinema would have lost its greatest bandit. But that was just the start of the madness. Born in 1915 to Polish immigrants, Wallach grew up in a Brooklyn tenement. He fought in World War II as a medic, saving lives, only to spend the 1950s playing gangsters on Broadway. By the time The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly came along, he was 50 years old and about to become immortal. Tuco was a monster, a clown, a survivor. Wallach made him all three. Watch his eyes, that flicker of panic when Blondie abandons him in the desert. The way he licks his lips before a kill. This wasn't acting. This was possession. But fame has a price. After GBU, Wallach was typecast as the ethnic villain for years. He hated it. And yet, he never regretted Tuco. Not even when the role overshadowed his Tony-winning stage career. Not even when his own grandkids called him the Ugly. He lived longer than Van Cleef. Longer than Leone. Dying at 98, Wallach became the last gunslinger standing. But here's the twist. Decades after the film, he'd still get recognized in the street. And his response? That same Tuco grin. Because in the end, the Ugly was unforgettable. Not all casualties of this film died off camera. Meet Aldo Giuffre, the broken Union captain who gave us one of cinema's most quietly devastating performances, then vanished into the shadows of history. Before he was Captain Clinton, Giuffre was a rising star of Italian cinema. Handsome, charismatic, a leading man in the post-war golden age. So how did he end up playing a suicidal drunk in a poncho? The answer lies in a war you never saw. That slurred speech, those bloodshot eyes, no acting required. By 1966, Giuffre was drowning in real-life alcoholism, a secret the studio hid by claiming he studied method acting. Leone exploited it. Watch closely when Clinton weeps over his dead soldiers. Those aren't tears. That's Giuffre mourning his own lost potential. And here's the twist. No one tells you. Giuffre did his own stunts. That drunken stagger across the bridge? Real. The way he collapses after the blast. Unscripted. The crew thought he'd been killed until they found him laughing in the river, still clutching his whiskey flask. After GBU, the roles dried up. The drinking worsened. By the 80s, he was living on spaghetti Western residuals and regret. When diabetes took him in 2010 at 84, only 3 people attended his funeral. No family, no co-stars, just a priest and that infamous flask buried with him. A line that became his epitaph. The ultimate joke? Today, fans still leave bottles of bourbon at his unmarked grave in Naples. Because in the end, in a film overflowing with sinners, one man was supposed to be holy. Meet Luigi P. Steele, the actor who played Father Ramirez, Tuco's brother. A priest on screen, a man with demons far darker than anything he confessed. Before the cassock, P. Steele was Italy's favorite screen psychopath. The man who made women scream in giallo horror films. So why did Leone cast him as a priest? Because he saw what others missed, the real rage in those eyes. Watch closely. When Ramirez slaps Tuco, that's not acting. P. Steele broke 2 of Wallach's teeth that day. The crew froze. Leone kept rolling. And Wallach? He spat out the blood and laughed. Because this wasn't brotherly love, it was years of real-life resentment boiling over. After GBU, P. Steele became unpredictable. Fired from 3 films for attacking directors. Arrested for smashing a reporter's camera. The press called him Il Diavolo in Prete, the devil in priest robes. And then, silence. April 21st, 1996. P. Steele died at 67 in a rented room with no family. The cause? A heart attack, they said. But the neighbors told a different story, of a man who'd screamed Tuco's lines at 3 a.m., still fighting battles from 30 years past. A curse that followed him to the grave. Today, cinephiles still debate, was P. Steele acting or exorcising his own darkness through Ramirez? The answer died with him. But the legend? That's eternal damnation. Some men only get one moment in the spotlight. For John Bartha, the nameless sheriff who stood between Tuco and his revenge. That moment lasted exactly 17 seconds. But the price he paid? That lasted a lifetime. That scream you hear? Real. The blood on his shirt? His own. Bartha insisted on doing the stunt himself. A decision that would haunt him for the next 20 years. Because when that horse took off, it didn't just tear his clothes, it shattered his spine. Here's what never made the DVD extras. Bartha was Leone's lucky charm. He played sheriffs in all $3 films. But after GBU, the painkillers started. Then the booze. By 1975, the man who'd shared scenes with Eastwood was sleeping under bridges in Berlin. November 1985. A janitor found a body in a Munich flophouse. No ID, no family claims, just two things in his pockets, a faded GBU stub and a sheriff's badge from the set. The coroner listed cause of death as chronic trauma complications, Hollywood's polite way of saying the West killed him slow. Prophetic words, because while Tuco rode off into legend, Bartha got the one thing his character promised him, a noose of pain that took decades to tighten. Some graves at Sad Hill Cemetery hold more than bones. Meet Lorenzo Robledo, the faceless Confederate soldier who took a bullet in that iconic final duel. A man who bled for Leon's masterpiece, then vanished into the Spanish desert like a ghost. That's him, the soldier who grabs his gut and falls at 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 36 seconds. No lines, no close-up. But here's what the cameras didn't show. Robledo wasn't just an extra. He was a Spanish Civil War veteran who'd survived real battles, only to die begging for work as a movie corpse. Records show Leon paid him 75 pesetas a day, about $1.20, less than the cost of the fake blood they poured on him. And when the shoot ended, Robledo kept the uniform. For 5 years, he wore it to other film sets, desperate to be recognized as the Sad Hill Soldier. They found his body in a Seville flophouse in 1978. No family, no funeral, just a trunk containing that tattered gray uniform, a ticket stub from GBU's premiere, and 37 identical headshots no one ever wanted. Watch that fall again. The way his arms splay like a broken puppet. That wasn't acting, it was muscle memory from Robledo's real war wounds. Leon knew. That's why he kept it in the final cut. The one moment this forgotten soldier became immortal by playing dead. Some deaths in cinema are so quick, you blink and miss them. Antonio Casale, the first bounty hunter Tuco executes, lasted exactly 8 seconds on screen. But the story behind those 8 seconds? That's been buried for 60 years. That splintering wood? Those screams? All real. Casale was a last-minute replacement hired because he looked good dying. But here's what Leon's crew never admitted. That gunshot you hear wasn't blanks. A misfire sent real wood fragments into Casale's face, blinding him in one eye. He sued. Lost. The settlement? 500,000 lire, about $800 today. Enough for a glass eye and a lifetime of pain. By 1972, Casale was begging outside Cinecita Studios. His Oscar-worthy death scene playing on loop inside while he starved outside. The last photo ever taken of him shows Casale at a 1989 GBU fan convention. Not as a guest, as a janitor. When fans asked about his scar, he'd grin and say Tuco's last gift. Then empty their trash cans. Watch those 8 seconds again. The way his hands clutch at nothing. That gasp as the light leaves his eyes. Method acting? No. Antonio Casale wasn't acting fear, he was living it. And when the cameras stopped, the terror never did. Some killers in this film never fired a shot. Meet Claudio Scarchilli, the faceless Mexican sniper who stalks Blondie at the bridge. No name, no lines, just a rifle, and a secret that would explode the myth of Sergio Leone's bloodless violence. That fall from a tower? Not a stuntman, not special effects. That was Scarchilli, a real-life Italian paratrooper Leone hired because he knew how to take a hit. But here's what the director never admitted. The 40-foot drop broke Scarchilli's spine in 3 places. The studio paid his medical bills, then blacklisted him. Why? Because when Scarchilli sued, he threatened to expose Leone's dirtiest secret. The safe falls were never safe. The fake blood was often real. And the screams? Those were always genuine. By 1980, he was living on disability in a Rome slum, renting out his war medals for food money. When fans tracked him down in 1992, they found a broken man who'd kept one souvenir from GBU, the sniper rifle that doomed him. Loaded. For when the pain gets bad, he said. Watch those 3 seconds again. The way his body goes limp. The unnatural twist of his neck. That wasn't acting. That was a soldier following his last order. Fall like you're dead. Claudio Scarchilli obeyed too well. Some actors didn't just play tortured men, they became them. Meet Mario Briga, the hulking sadist who played Corporal Wallace, the Union officer who interrogates Tuco, a role that would follow him to his grave and beyond. That scream you hear? Real. The blood on Tuco's wrists? Genuine. Because Briga, a former butcher, didn't believe in pretend cruelty. When Leone yelled, "Action!" he pulled that rope with full force, dislocating Wallach's shoulder. The take they used? The one where Wallach's agony wasn't acting. Briga was Leone's secret weapon, a 6 feet 4 inches brute who'd done real prison time. The director called him my human special effect. But here's what never made the press. That on-set brutality wasn't acting. Briga was battling his own demons and losing. After GBU, the roles got darker. The drinking got heavier. By 1980, Briga was arrested for beating a man nearly to death outside a bar. His defense? I thought he was Tuco. The judge didn't laugh. July 23, 1994. Briga died alone in a Roman flophouse at 70. The official cause? Heart failure. The coroner's notes tell a different story. Bruised knuckles, a broken bottle in his hand, and a faded GBU still in his pocket. The torture scene circled in blood-red ink, a line that became his epitaph. Today, Cinecita crews still swear they hear ropes creaking on stage 5, and screams that don't sound like acting. Some men don't wait for the director to call cut. Meet Al Mulock, the one-armed bandit who played the psychotic bounty hunter in the film's opening scene. A performance so chilling, because by take 3, he wasn't acting anymore. That unscripted shaking, the sweat pouring down his face, crew members thought it was method acting, until they saw the empty whiskey bottles in his dressing room, until he started screaming about the voices in the locomotive. Until it happened. June 5, 1966. Between setups, Mulock climbed back onto that train roof. No camera rolling this time. Shouted, "Viva la muerte!" and jumped. The 40-foot fall didn't kill him instantly. His last words to the medic? "Tell Leone I nailed the landing." The signs were there. The lost arm in a 1958 stunt gone wrong. The wife who'd left him after GBU's grueling rehearsals. That morning, he'd mailed his Oscar nomination for The Professionals to his ex with one word scrawled on it. Worthless. Leone kept the footage. Used it as a reference for other death scenes. That's why no actor ever matched Mulock's terror, because his last performance wasn't a role. It was a suicide note written in celluloid. Tomorrow, the curse of the one-armed man. How Mulock's ghost haunted Eastwood for decades. The credits rolled. The audience cheered. But out here in the Almeria dust, the real ending was written in missing headstones and studio payoffs. The good, the bad, and the ugly wasn't just a film. It was a mass grave with a soundtrack. 3 legends buried by time. 5 more forgotten souls beneath the sand. And how many nameless extras still clawing at the dirt, begging for their close-up in history. Leone knew. Eastwood knew. But in the West they sold you. The dead don't get dialogue. They called it art. They called it entertainment. But here's the bullet they bit. Every frame of this masterpiece is stained with something darker than blood, silence. Asterisk the silence of men who screamed as their backs broke. The silence of wives who got checks instead of answers. The silence of a desert that still whispers names the world chose to forget. Asterisk. So when you watch that perfect ending again, look closer. See them? The shadows behind the gunslingers. The ones without hats. Without lines, without graves, because the truth was never good, bad, or ugly. It was buried. Subscribe if you want more stories the studios burned. Like if you remember the forgotten. And share, because some ghosts only move when you scream their names.